I believe tomorrow can be better than today. Do you agree with that statement? I think most of us do. In fact, it might be one of the deepest agreements woven into our culture today. It's why people start businesses. It's why they invest. It's why they go to college. It's why they invent new technologies. It's why they choose to move across the country for new opportunity. Almost everything that we do assumes that tomorrow can become better than today. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself, how? How does your tomorrow become better than your today? What is actually standing between today's information and tomorrow's manifestation? Stick around and find out.
Step into parables. The method, the message, the mandate. Where parables of the natural reveal the master plan for your life.
Today I have one simple question for you. Do you agree? Not with me, not with politics, not with religion. Just, do you agree? Because we all do. So the real question is not, do we agree? It's, what are we agreeing with? Because how you answer that one question reveals far more than most people realize. And once you understand what agreement really is, you'll begin to see the world differently. You see, our culture has convinced us that information changes everything. They say learn more, read more, study more, get another degree, listen to another podcast, search Google, ask AI, or just gather more information. But the thing is, we have never had more information available to us than we do today. Yet information alone has never built a business. Information alone has never healed a marriage. Information alone has never healed a family, and it has never changed a nation. Because something stands between information and manifestation. The question is, what is it? Because you turn the news on, and every day you hear about peace agreements, trade agreements, business agreements, labor agreements, settlement agreements, international agreements. All of these treaties, ceasefires, corporate mergers, constitutional debates, and even the financial markets. Different countries, different leaders, different nations, and even different headlines. But at first glance, all of these seem completely unrelated. But are they? Because think about this. A peace treaty isn't really about paper. A merger isn't about paperwork. A marriage isn't about a ceremony. And a constitution isn't about ink that it's written with. Those are simply the visible expressions of those things. Beneath those visible expressions, something invisible was forming first. There is an invisible governing law that must be activated for every single manifestation in your life or any of those examples to occur. And that invisible law is called the law of agreement. Think about a courtroom. The judge walks in and everybody stands. Why? Is it the robe, or is it the bench, or is it the building maybe? Of course not. You see, everybody participating in that courtroom has agreed to the governing authority behind it. And without that agreement, the courtroom immediately becomes just an ordinary room. Or how about everybody's favorite football team? Two teams competing with everything that they have. Players, coaches, officials, and millions of fans. But the moment that everybody stops agreeing on the rules, there isn't a football game anymore, is there? Think about currencies. Money, right? Money is just paper, right? Or perhaps even today, it's not even that. It's just numbers on a screen. But let me ask you this. then why does it buy groceries? Why does it build companies? Why does it move markets? I'll tell you why. Because enough people have agreed that it has value. Take a look at language. Words are nothing more than sounds and symbols. And the only reason that I'm able to have this conversation with you right now is because we've agreed that as to what those sounds and those symbols mean. You see, agreement is everywhere. We've just stopped consciously seeing it at work. But once you begin to see it again, it's difficult to look at the world the same way. Every headline that you're reading, every story that you're watching, every visible outcome, it all started long before it ever became visible. And that realization will change the way that you look at absolutely everything. Because every visible manifestation began as information first. It began as an idea, a vision, a goal, a promise, a law, a principle. But information alone changes nothing. A business plan sitting in a drawer does not build a company. A constitution sitting in a museum does not govern a nation. A book sitting on a shelf does not change a life. Because between information and manifestation stands agreement. Now, let me take a drink for a minute here, and I want to think about this. We spend our lives literally pursuing information the whole time. I mean, the internet, the telephone has got us captivated. And we're always celebrating the manifestation. But we don't stop to examine what stands between those things. We just hope that manifestation shows up. I want to encourage you, however, to start focusing exclusively on agreement. Because agreement is the bridge. Without agreement, information remains information. And once you begin to look at it, you'll discover that agreement isn't confined just to contracts and conversations. You're going to actually see that agreement appears everywhere throughout reality. Wherever governing information is received, aligned with, and expressed. And that is why you can find the same governing pattern in human systems. You can find it in biological systems, economic systems, ecosystems, language, culture, and throughout absolutely everything in the natural world. Different fields, but the same governing pattern. With agreement, information becomes expression. It becomes manifestation at every level. Here's the thing. If this pattern is real, we shouldn't expect to discover only in today's worlds that I'm describing to you. You should be able to find it all throughout history. Without agreement, activity stalls. And that's exactly what we find in ancient text. This pattern, we find it revealed parabolically through what was revealed in ancient text as a covenant. A covenant is simply governing information received and entered into by agreement and carried into visible expression in the lives that lived from that agreement. You see, in ancient text, God spoke to Abraham. Abraham agreed by moving. His agreement became a journey. It became a land, a field of expression, a promised son, and a lineage. And that very same agreement, that same covenant, continued all the way through Isaac and through Jacob. And what began as information spoken into one man's life became a family, became a people, and eventually became a nation. The covenant did not remain information in that family. Agreement carried it forward until it became visible. Information, agreement, and expression. You know, thousands of years ago also, ancient text was revealing this pattern, the same invisible pattern. over and over again, as I said, something was spoken, somebody agreed, and a visible outcome followed. And whether you agreed or disagreed determined the visible outcome that followed from it. You know, another text I think is very striking is the prophet Amos. He asked a remarkable question, and he posed this in Amos 3, verse 3, when he says it this way: how can two walk together unless they be agreed? Think about that statement for a minute, because he doesn't ask whether two people can know each other. He's not even asking whether they can stand beside each other. What he's asking here is whether they can walk together. Why? Because movement requires agreement. And then centuries later, Jesus revealed the very same invisible pattern. Because an ancient text of Matthew 18:19, he's quoted saying this: "Again, I say to you, if two of you agree on earth as concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father, which is in heaven." Notice here where he began. He didn't begin with manifestation. He began with agreement. Because agreement wasn't simply being encouraged, it was being revealed as the condition that precedes movement. The condition that moves expression. It's what allows manifestation. You see, the pattern repeats so consistently that eventually you stop reading isolated stories and you begin to see a governing pattern. You will see over and over that agreement creates alignment. And then alignment creates the conditions for manifestation. And then suddenly parables begin to look different again. Because remember, a parable reveals an invisible pattern through something visible. So now a government is a parable. A marriage is a parable. A business is a parable. Money becomes a parable. Language becomes a parable. Today's headlines are all parables. They're all revealing the same exact invisible reality. And that is that agreement always precedes manifestation. So tomorrow morning, when you turn on the news, don't just watch the headlines. I want you to look beneath them. In fact, start right now asking yourself, what invisible agreements have I unknowingly entered into in my life? Where is agreement forming? Where is agreement breaking? And what information produced that agreement? Because once you begin seeing agreement, you'll begin seeing what governs life. And more importantly, what is governing your life. And maybe this is what you've been looking for all along. You just didn't have a name for it. But I tell you, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Guys, let me bring this together for you like this. The kingdom of God in ancient text is a parabolic reference to an invisible governing field. It's not visible. It is the highest governing field from which every subordinate field receives its order. It's not competing with the systems beneath it. It establishes the order by which those systems flourish. And it governs them continuously, impartially, and consistently. Any field that governing information is received into, agreement forms. And where agreement forms, alignment emerges. And where alignment is established, expression follows. Every visible manifestation reveals the invisible agreement that preceded it. And that is why the kingdom can be seen. Every relationship, every family, every business, every government, every economy, every living system, every visible reality is continually revealing the governing agreements from which they live. And when you learn to recognize the law of agreement, when you recognize what governs, now you understand why reality expresses itself the way that it does. You know, guys, the entire point of a parable is to get you to shift your perception. Because too long we have been looking at the visible. The visible is the manifestation, but it's not the origin of structure of your life. The origin of structure comes from the invisible structure laid out before you. All I'm trying to do is to shift your perspective so you can begin to see reality by how it's being governed, not by what is manifesting in it today. Because if you want to change what is manifesting in your life, you're going to have to come into terms with what are you agreeing with in your life? Because that, my friends, is what is causing every single manifestation in your life. And when I say cause, I don't mean comes on you, you have no say in it. I'm saying that there is a causative power in reality. That causative power allows manifestation to occur when you agree to something long enough. Now, whether you're agreeing with what is right or not right is not the question. That's the question that you have to answer. Guys, say this declaration with me. Say, Father, I thank you that your governing kingdom is the highest governing reality in my life. I receive your governing truth with a willing heart, and I choose to live in agreement with your wisdom, your purpose. And I declare that every thought, every decision, every relationship, every work of my hands comes into alignment with your governing order. May that life be expressed through me so that your will is seen on earth as it is in heaven through my life. Guys, I've been saying this forever. I'm going to keep saying it because you have to detach every concept of reality and God away from any religious structure at all. It was never about religion. Religion is man's man-made systems of visible governance intended to control you and to blind the truth from you. Jesus did not come to establish another external visible government. He said that in ancient text. He came to revealing the internal and the invisible governance of reality. The invisible government that governs the heart. Because what governs the heart eventually governs your life. And that, my friends, is why you can see this law of agreement in every single layer, every single field of life. Because it is a governing principle. It's not a religion. Hey, if you haven't already received it or got it, go ahead and comment lie below. It's a book I wrote I'd love to get to called The Lie of Religion. Just comment lie below and I'm going to shoot that right to you. It's never been about religion. It's been about the original structure of reality that God set this system up to operate within. And I want you to see it. Hey, I'm E.J. Hogan. Stay aligned.
Thanks for joining us. I know you're starting to see it. Come back again. There's more to uncover.